You filming, are you?
Yeah.
I'm worried for that dog.
Right, I wasn't going to do a speech today. At the end of the day, there's a lot of people that doesn't understand who we are, what ACA is, and what we're about. So, seeing the least put me on the spot, and I haven't got nothing written down. I'll explain who we are personally and who ACA is. So, obviously I'm Paul. I was born down in Pembroke. I was moved from Pembroke to Cardiff, well, Roos, when I was 2 years of age. My mother and father split up and she got with the family vicar. My nan and my pop, on the day that we were moving, they went absolutely nuts, started smashing the car in, and I asked my mother to leave me with them because obviously the family vicar was the same age as my nan and my pop, so he wasn't happy that they got together, especially when they decided to move away. My mum said no, so off we went. We lived down in Pontygerry in a caravan for the first part of 2 years, I think it was, and then we moved to Fondon. When I was 5, I had to have an operation down below, and because of that I had to keep it stimulated, or whatever the word is. So my mother wouldn't do it, so it was down to him to do it. And then that's where the abuse started coming from. It started off obviously with the hands and then the mouth and so on and so on. I started working with him at the age of 5 as well. On the weekends, he used to pay me 25 quid a day, but obviously being older now, that was just hush money, because obviously at the age of 5 you're the richest kid in the fucking school. It went on until I was 13. I was a bit of a rebel, but it was all me trying to find that love and find that right person to speak to. Obviously I didn't understand that at the time, but I do now. We had sports day, which I never really got into the sports day with the running and stuff like that. I was more for the rugby. And so I nicked a bottle of cooking brandy from the kitchen. I put it in my bag, and as I was walking to the school bus, it started raining, so I pulled my jacket out of the bag. The bottle hit the floor, so the old tin top burst, and I thought, well, I'm not going to waste it, I'm going to start drinking it. So that was up by 7 in the morning. By 9 o'clock we got off the bus. I put one foot off the bus and I was wrecked. They called my mother picked me up, took me home. I absolutely slept for about 2 days. When I woke up, my mother went nuts at me. We had a conversation, and then obviously I told my mother what was going on in my head and everything like that. I think it took a couple of days for us to move to St Athan. Me and my mother really started falling out big time about it. We had a lot of fights and everything like that. So I ended up moving back to Roos with the abuser, but I was hardly there. So when he went to court, I was just turned 16. It went on for a week, and it was the worst time of my life. Like, all I wanted to do was go into the courtroom and speak, but they wouldn't have me there because of my age, so I had to do it through the screen. He got off with it. Two weeks after he got off with it, the main OB that was in charge of the case, he resigned, and then 6 months later I had an £8 payout by the system for what he'd done. So obviously I'm sitting there scratching my head thinking, well, hang on a minute, first you had the police resign, and then I get a payout. So obviously ever since I knew that the system was broken. The system wasn't there for the kids, and it certainly ain't there for the victims. So I've been fighting ever since because of that. It's been a lonely road. Like I've been out on talking to people just shrug it off, going, oh, you're full of fucking crap. He hasn't gone down. So obviously you're just telling stories. But no, I'm not telling stories. But in, at the end of the day, my mental health right at this moment in time is because of what happened back then. People say, like, it happened years ago. Yes, it does. But the mental side of it sticks with you for the rest of your life. So, some are strong, like we can see here. Like I know some of you have gone through it. They're sitting here now, and like we're still here to tell our stories. But there is a lot of people that's been abused that can't deal with the mental side of it, and they do top themselves, which is the saddest part. Do you know what I mean? Because it shows where how the system is so fucked up again, because there's no support out there properly. They say you can go to a psychiatrist or this person, but what these psychiatrists know, they do, they don't do nothing. They get you to draw pictures. You draw pictures and then you leave. Well, the first words my psychiatrist ever said to me was, because you've been abused, we're going to have to keep an eye on you when you have kids, because you're a high risk of doing it yourself. So obviously, at the time I didn't realise what she meant. But when I did have kids, there was that gap between me and my kids. But that's obviously the mental side of it, thinking of what she just said, and it played on me all the time. And then obviously when I started speaking to people, and people started used to say about forced adoption, that's when it clicked in what she meant. At the end of the day, people can say that they take kids because they want to take kids, because they need to take the kids for their own safety. Yes, some cases that is true. But a lot of the cases is a load of shit. Half the time, if you talk to these people that's gone through it, most of them have gone through abuse themselves, and they use their abuse to take their kids off them, thinking that they're at high risk, that it's going to happen to them. But none of us can actually see the future. And me standing here today, being a survivor, I know that I would never be able to do anything that I received to a child, for the simple fact of I know how it feels. So where they say the abusers will turn into it, is that right?
The abused will turn into abusers.
Turn into abusers is a total fucking bullshit. All it is to keep your mental health fucked up. So you're easy controlled, or that they think you're easy controlled, when you're mentally fucked up in the head. So obviously that's a little bit about myself. Now ACA came about because obviously the last few years I've been down in England, because not one person, well, I never came across one person in Wales that wanted to stand up for the kids. Every person would give it, oh yeah, you're doing it, we'll stand by you, this and that, but no one actually came to the streets like we are here today and done it with me. So there was groups out in England that were standing up for the kids, so I went and joined with them. In fact, straight away you felt like a family. You got brought in, and it was great. It was a great feeling to think I finally got a family to back me up like. Obviously now, with everything starting to come out all over Facebook, a couple of us got together and said that Wales needs to start waking up. If they're going to wake up, the time is now to wake them up. So obviously, me and Lee, there's Bobby and Joseph Blair, which are twins. They're from Ireland, they're veterans. They were abused by the Catholic priests. You've got Phil Watkins and Kyle Breacher, which is another Birmingham lad. Phil Watkins is a Bridgend lad as well. But we all got together because at the time we were supporting Neil McAvoy. Because Neil McAvoy had a phone call of a family down here, saying that their child is in care and he's been abused. Every time that they speak to him, he mentions about this abuse. So Neil went to look into it, and because he was looking into it, like if you know Neil McAvoy, we all know that he's a bit of job site, but he is an MP, he is a councillor, so he has got that parental thing on children when they're in care. He was took to by the council court, so we all backed him up. And the things that they were saying to him was unreal, like, just to shut him up basically. So we put a demo on, was it the 10th of February, wasn't it?
This is my friend there.
So we put that on for him, but in the meantime, with the court ending and the demo being put on, you had your hierarchies then going up to Neil going, don't sit next to Paul, because Paul's far right, Paul's this, Paul's that. So Neil didn't come to the demo for the simple fact of he thought he couldn't be seen with far right. We had a bit of an argument, and that's as far as that one goes. But that day, that's when ACA was made for the Welsh people, because at the time there was nothing in Wales, because apart from the select few that was out on the streets, there was not a proper thing out there for you all. Yeah, so obviously what we've been trying to do is just we go to Cardiff, we come to Swansea, we've been to Merthyr, Bridgend, Barry, Pembroke Dock, we've been all over,
forget Pembroke
handing out
Dock.
leaflets, talking to the public, and instead of demos, it's been more of awareness days to get people to understand that people ain't going to sit back and they're not going to be silenced anymore. Obviously, we done one here Saturday, and it was absolutely amazing. We had about 37 people, which is obviously the largest group that we've seen in Wales. But even though the day was brilliant, like obviously after a demo, there is no demo after the demo. So what everyone's got to understand is we work all week. We take the day off that we have, we come out to do this. We don't get paid for this, we don't ask for money, we do it off our own backs for the children. So because it was my birthday last weekend, we did go to the pub, and fair play to the Swansea boys, like there was a big round table and most of the drinks on the table was mine. So I ended up having to down them, got in the Halber Steak because that was the first time that I've had a drink like that since this bullshit COVID started. So I was wrecked. I said, but like, what I'll do, I'm going to show you the team first before I go into that properly. So, can you all come here? Right, so obviously these are admins, they're part of the ACA. They don't normally speak because obviously there's court cases going on and stuff like that, which they can't. But they help me out massively, and if it wasn't for these girls, ACA wouldn't be what ACA is today, and having all you people here. Right, so I'll call Simone up now. No, stand there. Right, so, was it last week, 2 weeks ago? Right. Right, nice to meet you. Good, it's nice to see you both. But yeah, so obviously we met Simone over 2 weeks ago on Facebook. She started her own group up on Facebook. Being obviously Welsh, we pulled her on to the team of ACA, so she is one of our admins now, and she's been bloody amazing for the last 2 weeks. Fair play to her. And then obviously you got Lee. Come here, man. But there is a couple more admins that's not here today. It's obviously got things going on, being a Thursday, which you've got to accept. But what everyone's got to understand, for me and Lee, we met 3 years ago down in London. We had a big march going on for the kids. So obviously myself in Cardiff, there's only two of us that go on marches from Cardiff, which is part of the DFOA. Lee and the Swansea boys are absolutely amazing. They started off with 50 lads. It's gone down a bit now because the DFOA is starting to phase out. But when we first met, obviously being Cardiff and Swansea, it was the most awkwardest day that you could put us both in. Because we had to stand there and go, I've got to make out I like you. When all we wanted to do was hit each other. But we done it. And since that day, like, our bonds grew and grew and grew. We put on demos in Wales for the veterans. We put demos on in Wales for the kids. We've done shitloads over the years, haven't we? We've travelled back and forth to London numerous times. And like I said, like if it weren't for the Swansea boys, then we wouldn't be what we are today neither. So, like, in fair play to the boys, like. And obviously you got my missus. She won't stand up because she's a bit shy. But yeah, but at the end of the day, like, even though you're not part of ACA, I'm hoping that the more that we get to know each other, then because we're not about just marching. It's about building a family, knowing that we got support. And we're all here together. Because people say, let's go on the streets, let's march for the kids, let's change laws. Well, I think I've been doing it long enough to understand marches don't change laws. The only way we're going to change laws is by taking the corruption out, which obviously the corruption is being the establishment. At the end of the day, they're the ones that's been knowing that this is going on for years. Not one single person has stepped up to the mark and asked for changes. But then you still, even out of that, you've still got 161 politicians that's on the sex register. So then that's where you start asking questions. Like you see in the news now, over and over again, how many police gets done for child abuse, how many judges are getting done. So it's a high thing through the hierarchy, and this is why they won't change laws, because they know as soon as the laws change, people will go in for them, because they are the massive part of what is going on in this country, up and down. So for myself, and this is massive for me, doing what we do is just gathering the numbers and trying to wake the numbers up to realise that we've got to hit Parliament and bring back Guy Fawkes to finish the job fucking properly this time.
Oh, Jason.
Here's the other one. He's a bit late, but we'll let him off. This is Jason, obviously another part of us. So, but same as Lee. The story's exactly the same, but just wanted to show you his face. So, I just want people to understand how big ACA is in a family-wise. And everyone that wants to stand up for our children can be part of our family. So yeah, as long as everyone realises that the sooner we all come together, we can drain the swamp, and that's what I want. I don't want anything apart from draining the swamp, and then let's take our country back. The House of Commons is called the House of Commons because it's for the common fucking people. But where are the common people in that house? They're nowhere to be seen. Yeah, all you've got is these rich assholes that just think that they can bully us, do what they want, rob us, It can't keep on going on. So we need to stand up as one and drain the swamp.
Yay! Anyone else going to do a speech? Huh?
Mum said she won't.
No.
Again, that's why I have to
If anyone else wants to make a speech, babe. No, in the audience.
Paranoid, but it's not. Everything is done for a reason, isn't it?
Anybody else want to do a speech?
Go on.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
No.
No one's willing to get up anyway. Yeah, that's
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and
Does anyone else want to do a speech? Are you here?
hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit.
You guys want to do a speech?
Get hit and keep moving forward. How much